ignored all the warnings, forgot the lessons, we abused our power. We played with genetics like it was a toy. We weren't careful. And now, here we are. This is a very different world.
Jurassic World Dominion. Experience a special extended preview only on F9 and IMAX.
Welcome, everyone, to the Jurassic Podcast. My name is Albert, and we are a certain number of days away from Jurassic Dominion, or rather, Jurassic World Dominion. My goodness. I'll explain the dropping of the world just then. I have been completely immersed in not just, obviously my hype and gratitude for Jurassic World Dominion, but also thinking about what other permutations of Jurassic await us in the future. And that's why I named the podcast the Jurassic Podcast, because I wanted to cover park, I wanted to cover the world, and then whatever other, possibly, a third trilogy that will have its own separate moniker, which would be beautiful. And I think that just in naming it just the Jurassic, first of all, Jurassic Park has claimed that name. I do the Elden Ring podcast as well, and if you think about it, so before Elden Ring was announced, the word Elden was just sort of sitting there, doing its thing, and then when Miyazaki came along and said, okay, this is my word, and George R. R. Martin said, okay, and now anytime from here on, whenever you type Elden, it won't just come up with a Wikipedia definition, it just comes up immediately with autofill Elden Ring. And as Clayton Fioriti, who we hope to have on the show at some point to discuss his channel and his extremely worthwhile and prolific work, high quality work that he does over on his channel, as he was conversing with a paleontologist, actually, this paleontologist mentioned that Jurassic has inherited the responsibility of educators, not just entertainers. And with Dominion, we are really, really looking at that, aren't we? We are looking at feathered, accurate dinosaurs, at least in this prologue, which we have been seeing some teasers for. I'm extremely excited, and you see, you can probably hear sometimes when I dip into that speechlessness, it is because, folks, it is real, it's happening. Jurassic World Evolution 2, which looks to be incredible. I was heavily manifesting a Jurassic RPG, which is, it's right there. The idea absolutely assembles itself, either a mixture of, basically there are two ideas. One is Jurassic Isolation, essentially, where it's Jurassic's version of Alien Isolation with a raptor. Simple as that. One raptor, I'm not kidding. That's all it is. Obviously you can bring other raptors in, but it's almost all it would take, really, because of how terrifying they are as pack hunters. So that one, and then the open world, the Chris Pratt, we were looking at this third person title being created. and yeah, like there was a lot of excitement around that. Obviously when it was cancelled, there was lots of disappointment, and for me, certainly a lot of disappointment with that as well. But no matter, folks, because with these sorts of ideas, I actually said this recently with Legacy of Kain, which I also host. Folks, don't worry, like, it's going to happen. All right, so, like, do not worry. Like, Do not worry at all. I'm very, very stoked. And I don't know if we're going to build up towards something like a Jurassic Day or a Jurassic Con of some kind. Jurassic Con definitely sort of rolls off the tongue. But in many ways, like I have here the tagline, so their dominion begins. And in many ways, even though something is ending, this is Joseph Campbell, he talks about this, or alludes to this rather, is that when a journey ends, another begins. And I am equally as excited for the ending of the Jurassic World trilogy as I am for the beginning of what I will be calling, I suppose, the extended Jurassic saga. The Jurassic Path is one thing you could call Jurassic Path. There you go. Let's just prospectively call that, which is going to be 1,000% manifesting in it, and for me it is a 100% guarantee. A series, folks. Okay, so Battle of Big Rock proved that with, and by the way, Jurassic ironically thrives on the absence of dinosaurs, as exemplified in the first film. So you take that first film, folks, and you look at the screen time of dinosaurs, very minimal. And obviously, zombie effects are easy to achieve and less CG because it's just a person, with a bit of makeup and a bit of CGI removal of certain aspects. But with dinosaurs, take that first film and then make it, turn it into maybe something like a 45 to 50-minute experience. Do some, literally take Jurassic Park 1993 as a template, and each episode would be like that. There would be such a gentle, subtle inclusion of these creatures, and I hope that Dominion is actually opening the door to that, right? I love that Jaffa and Silver were involved because they're across the planet of the apes, or rather, as I call it, the Apes Saga, and we have the Apes Podcast too, and their real-world integration in War for the Planet of the Apes is exemplary and also should be seen as a template as well. So we'll do a little check here actually. So days to June 10, which should just immediately snap me to, there you go. Okay. June 10, obviously I have to put 2022, right? Right, so 357 days. Okay, so 20 days after when I first posted the countdown, and we'll be put as we put this up on the show. Sorry, on the channel. I'll be adding some effects and definitely adding a new countdown. So approaching the 350-day mark. Exciting, less than a year. You know what I mean? A truly special time indeed, definitely. And yeah, the beaming just kind of returns to me. But anyway, so if you go to the Instagram, so the Jurassic Podcast, that's the username, got 31 views. It is in 5 days the dream will finally come true. Since 2015, we have all been out daydreaming of this, folks. Here is some background for those who are not familiar. New images and video surfaces from the cancelled Jurassic World game, November 9, 2015. New information and assets has finally been found for the cancelled Jurassic World game. The title would have used the Unreal Engine 4. The new game will use Unreal Engine 5, which has been demonstrated by Epic Games with their beautiful demos. With you can see them essentially photoreal. We've really achieved that, folks. And who knows? This is such a young medium, but we'll see in the next 5 years when this game will definitely be announced for sure. There is a lot of information at the link worth checking out. It's sad to see that this was cancelled, but it sounds like Universal is still interested in getting a Jurassic World game out there. So hopefully we'll see something soon. In June of 2015, 6 whole years ago, a rumor surfaced that Cryptic Studios, Seattle, would be closing. By the way, brackets, I'm putting out feelers for the ability to speak to someone from Cryptic. We're going to get the Death Grounds folks there on the show as well about their game, which is multiplayer Jurassic Isolation in some ways, and that'll be nice to get some more details on this title. So Cryptic Studios closing, and that they would be working on an open world Jurassic World video game. Unfortunately, it was Jurassic Open World right there. Come on. It's meant to be. Unfortunately, it was confirmed shortly after that the studio had shut down While the Jurassic game evidence was always fleeting, there was enough to logically conclude that the rumor was true. The original information, which came from Reddit, described the game as such. I got to see some screenshots of Cryptic Studios' newest game, which was based on Jurassic World. It was a third-person game where the player controlled Chris Pratt's character. And when you look at that GIF which I've posted, it just makes you just hyped. Oh wow, they got the licensed appearance of Chris Pratt, a perfect Jurassic Park 1 raptor, like that grey-brown, which is just my raptor. When you look at those two GIFs, you immediately think of I'm going to stand up now because the hype is too real, the Sega game, folks. Exactly, so yeah, the hype with I have so many strong memories. In fact, we're going to have a whole episode dedicated to that game, the Sega game. That, it actually used to scare me. Just that opening screen. There were so many in that first Jurassic Park. There were just so many dark, visuals. Like there was the pitch black and red. All these colors which in nature you see serpents and so forth with that kind of. It would be the black and red or the black and yellow. So these are all poisonous, scary colors in the natural world or in the animal kingdom, which signify danger and stay away kind of thing. And so that actually operated on a subconscious level with the marketing of the film and the presentation, and even in the film itself there's lots of pitch blacks and yellows and reds to just say stay away. And it's just honestly to its great effect. And I think the reason why, and I'm going to get to it, I might even call this episode My Raptor Nightmare, because I'm going to be speaking now about the Velociraptor nightmare I had last night, which is a symptom. It's not just, look, let me just tell you about my nightmare. It's about what it means. And for me, the perfect, timeless magic of Jurassic is this balance between terror and wonder. And for me, something very just universal just applies. Universal applies to the entire Jurassic experience, which is you want to be scared. You want to be extremely scared, but you don't want to be overwhelmed. You want to be brought to the point of, as I would call it in the Ellie scene, for me, the height of tension, and across all soon-to-be 6 films. We'll see if the 6th film brings something. I'll get to my nightmare very soon, which has a sequence that I believe if they were to, portray something even along these lines, it would really rival the Ellie being hunted in the Jurassic Park 1993 in the jungle. It would really rival that in terms of tension, in terms of the perfect placement of that sequence within the story, which is in leading up to the story, you hear about these creatures being so lethal, so dangerous, and sort of, their myth and their danger and their threat precedes them in the narrative, in the dialogue. And so then by the time they break out, at that point, the whole audience, their heart is in their throats, up into their mouths, they are really, really scared, and they've especially since they've seen already Muldoon and Ellie have their lives threatened once, so they're already on edge, caring about these characters who they've now connected with, and they've seen Muldoon, seeing some heroic moments from him of going out and that responsibility that he takes on and that fearlessness that he shows. Frankly, I'm just going to put it now, oh my god, my heart, Jurassic Park Muldoon, there would be hype across the internet. Boy, Jurassic Park Muldoon, and this is a story it's a prequel of Muldoon experiencing a very dangerous time in the prequel, in the lead up to the Jurassic World original title. Now, you would obviously have to mitigate that idea of the idea of the removal of tension because the character survives. I think there's a way of mitigating that, and you just immediately, what your template is for that is Alien Isolation for that. So in some ways you get the sense, I don't know if actually I'll have to see if Amanda Ripley, spoilers, dies in potential spoilers actually dies in Isolation, but no, she doesn't actually. Frankly, excuse me, sorry, yes, that's why I was like, where did that come from for me to mention Amanda? Of course, because in the confirmed to be canon deleted scenes of Aliens, Amanda reaches a ripe old age, So you're going into Isolation knowing that you'll survive. And so you'd be going into Jurassic Park Muldoon, third slash first person, I reckon would be great. If they were to do it, if they were to get their Bethesda on and make it extremely ambitious and just say, look, and hypothetic E3 presentation opens. Who didn't look at this moment back then and think, with his hat, with his shotgun, with his heroism, that we wouldn't want to play as Muldoon, and then with full approval from the Peck estate, as Bob Peck, extremely talented actor, played this amazing character, right? So yeah, that's something that I now simply cannot get out of my head. I'm going to be pitching this later to Reddit. So that's the wonderful thing about the podcast, is that you go into these, and as I record, this will be about 293 of the main show episode, and then this is, I think it's the first full-fledged episode of the Jurassic Podcast. So in the description you'll see who I am. If you wanted to know super quickly, I'm an Australian artist. My name is Albert Kessa. I have 3 outlets of creativity. Number 1 is the art that I make, the patterns and such that you can find on the merch, and it's this stream of consciousness pattern creation, which is like cathartic for me, and it is this depiction of, as is now related to the second pillar, which is the storytelling. For me, it's the quantum myth that I write. So the patterns in the quantum myth are tied together, and in the quantum myth there's this thing called the ever-shaping, and then you take these captures of the ever-shaping and boom, that's my abstract patterns right there. Real talk, they're all inspired by, if you know Legacy of Kain and Oddworld and Darth Maul's tattoos, you shove those all together and then add like this person who has experienced Mastodon and Tool and all kinds of omnidirectional like life philosophies and all that, and then infuse the meaning of that into them, and then boom, I guess this counts as like a little mid-episode segment about, hi, how you doing? Show is presented to you by me, I suppose. And then the third pillar is the podcast network, which you're listening to now. So I suppose without further ado, back to the show. Anyway, Jurassic Park Muldoon. And I just had another idea. Here you go. Jurassic World Muldoon, if you want. And that's like, you immediately ask, well, why world? It's a world, Muldoon's child, Muldoon's brother, Muldoon's son. There would be something there which you could do just to maybe, if you wanted to bring that into the Jurassic World Muldoon, and you boom, it's into the main world, it's into the timeline of Jurassic Dominion, Jurassic World Dominion. I am struggling now. Do I call this episode My Raptor Nightmare, or do I call it Jurassic World Muldoon? I'll figure it out. Like, the hype is real for this, and I'll be developing some graphics for that, folks. Like, it is the Occam's razor, let's do this. Like, the most obvious thing, if you've heard of the Occam's philosophy, which is, it immediately snapped to the most obvious. That's what the principle of Occam's is. And the most obvious, obviously you would say Alan Grant. Sure, you could do Alan Grant, but that name, it carries, I remember just seeing the name Muldoon, and it just there's a timbre to it, there's a sound and a cadence to it which just fits like Jurassic Park Muldoon. There you go. It's officially my pitch, I suppose, that this episode has turned into, so there you go. But I will, just so I've included it, because this was the impetus for recording, and I want to honor that. Here we go, folks. Alright. So I don't know if you have ever had... if you've ever had... Oh, it was removed. That's a bit sad. Okay, so I need to very quickly resubmit, because I did include a URL short. That's fine. I think Reddit is cracking down on URL shortness, which is totally fine. That is their prerogative. Okay. Let's do this, folks. Alright, 2 and 1. Right. Now, I just want to give a little preamble. So I don't know... It's not even a question, actually, probably. I'm certain all of you listening to this who were, prompted by, I don't know, algorithm, whatever, you came across the show, click through to it from Reddit, for example. I've absolutely had a Jurassic nightmare. I've had many. And for some people, it's the T-Rex, right? Like, believe me, like, that's I mean, I remember from one of my nightmares was like just a trio. Like someone was like hanging out their washing. And this is going to get into the Jurassic World Dominion talk. Hanging out there washing on a balcony. And this, I think, was still in the resort in my dreams. This was in the lead up to Jurassic World. And just that pure terror of like, oh wow, this enormous, a T-Rex's head is the size of like a minivan or even bigger. It's huge and it's terrifying. And it's suddenly there, covered in scales, giant teeth, giant tongue, and you're just like fucking petrified, giant eyes. And who wouldn't be? And then boom, plucked off of the balcony, and then you're gone. And it's terrifying because not only it's not tidy. That's the thing. One of the terrors for me, and I've just gotten into a little bit more the Attack on Titan, is they'll just they won't fully devour you. It is a chomp. Like you do get bifurcated. Like you get chopped in half, and so part of you is still alive inside that half of the T-Rex's mouth. Not for long, obviously you die from shock and blood loss and everything. But if you were tenacious enough or whatever, you're like will to live or whatever, like you're potentially alive in that stomach. It's just fucked up, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, and then with raptors you have the disembowelment thing. But anyway, so here we go. My first Velociraptor nightmare in years, brackets, and why that's a good thing. Comma, thanks to Jurassic World. No worries. Alright, let's submit that. Velociraptor nightmares. Quite rather frequently as a child. Here we go. Alright. Let's do this, folks. Oh, and we have to add the flair, of course. By the way, head over to reddit.com/r/Jurassic Park, and that's your main place right there. So shout out also to fellow Jurassic podcasts out there. They have the Jurassic Outpost, right? And then obviously the Jurassic Park podcast. Shout out to you, legend. I'm your host, Brett Jost. Kindred, absolutely kindred. Radio. All right, bringing it up now. And thank you for your patience, folks, because I know, time's a thing, and but it is important to. Oh, did that get auto removed as well? Why? No, there's no URL shortener in that one. Oh my, folks, this is crazy. Okay, in that case, I might just maybe repost it later because I care about you guys' time. Did I just receive a DM about that? No, I didn't. Oh my god, it's like your submission was automatically removed because you. By the way, if you're listening, anyone from the Reddit team on Jurassic Park, I think I speak for the whole community, like literally from Love and Light, that the policies on hosting I think it really detracts a lot of participation because of the very, very strict rules around like inclusion of images. I don't know what that was motivated by at some point. A lot of other subreddits don't have that at all. So yeah, I kind of, you know what I mean? Like I don't, no bueno. So sending you good vibes, but I just want to respectfully, here we go. Okay, one last time, all right, people. My first Jurassic Park. My first Velociraptor night. Velociraptor. In that way, my episodes tend to be a bit like Twitch streams, I guess. Just kind of unedited and just flowing in years. Brackets. Alright. That's a good thing. Next to Jurassic World Dominion. Alright, I'm just going to straight up not include an image, so hopefully that gets rid of anything. Boom. Alright, please be kind. Alright, I've scanned it, there are no URL shorteners. Boom. We're going to go Flare, Jurassic World Dominion. Boom. Please. Just let this... Okay, your post is live. And has not been removed. Excellent. My Velociraptor nightmare my first Velociraptor nightmare in years, and what? That's a good thing. Ooh, I'm OCD about stuff, man, so you need to bear with me, because I don't like spelling errors in titles. It's, yeah, alright, this is like my fourth fucking time. I think it's because I'm rushing a little bit. I just want to get you guys the content, as they say. Great. And this will take like 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a 5. Wow. And that's, I mean, hey, it's a testament. If you get through reddit.com/r/Jurassic Park's posting policies, you do and very much love. I posted it 5 times, this thing. Right. Wrote it upstairs at my work. There was a bit of a lull in work, so I just wrote this, and it had to this was the time to discuss this, folks. So my first Velociraptor nightmare in years, and why that's a good thing, thanks to Jurassic World Dominion. I used to have Velociraptor nightmares rather frequently as a child, and as they continued right up into my 20s, until Jurassic World, when, because they were trained human helping raptors in the story, the nightmares ceased. FYI, I am grateful to Jurassic World for reigniting interest in and love for the Jurassic series, but also ceased because of this with some measure of my excitement for the series. It is still strong, but Jurassic World plus Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom definitely dented it. Dominion, however, is absolutely reigniting it, taking it further than ever before. Because they're getting back to basics with the simple premise of predatory dinosaurs plus human plus subtle tension-building storytelling, better than any gimmicky premises or CGI-filled sequences. Case in point, Dominion is directly responsible for restarting my Raptor nightmares, right? And I want to hear, actually, if people wanted to comment on the Instagram, like, if it has done something similar for you. That's I want to hear about that, for sure. Okay. Oof. It's because of, like, I'm serious. Like, it really got there. It really got to me, folks. Like, the sequences with the prelude set in the we're going back to the actual origins of the actual dinosaurs portrayed in the films. Going into the distant past, and that same DNA. And that's the thing is when I would watch, like, for example, the kitchen scene, I would think about, this dinosaur is not meant to be here. This dinosaur is meant to be out on the fields of Mongolia hunting in a pack, many millions of years separated from us, and yet it is here. And so again, in portraying that period, it's a genius move by Colin Trevorrow, because we are going to have that fear in us we'll be reminded of where these things actually belong, and it will be that contrast of saying, actually, no, and you see this thing, presumably when we're watching this film Dominion, is like a T-Rex walking across, like billboards and stuff, and it's like, this is wrong. And I remember, as Tim and Lex are hiding, I'm so scared for them, and I keep saying to myself inside, like, this is wrong. I shouldn't be hearing these sounds. I shouldn't be seeing this sight, not from this is a terrifying alien kind of thing, but it's like, this was real. And that's what also ratchets up the really palpable fear for me with Jurassic. It is, those things existed, right? And so it just eliminates that little bit of, imagination, suspension of disbelief. It's like, you don't have to actually, there's an extra dude with only Jurassic, not with Star Wars, with any other properties that are based fully in that fantasy realm, like Harry Potter, for example. No part of you looks at a Dementor and says, oh, I have to be, those used to be around. It's like, no, these things were like these, and actually at 6 foot tall, that could look you in the eye. Deinonychus, obviously, if we're talking, taxonomically correct, but as we know, the meta commentary of Jurassic is that these creatures are not dinosaurs. They are theme park monsters, and yet they are animals as well. And interestingly, and that's why, there's a beautiful dance between that. And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom had some interesting plays on that trope with the Indoraptor, but by and large, I would say love and light to the people who made that film. But it's just because you just don't need something like the Indoraptor. I mean, what I applaud is the gusto to just completely turn, like, yeah, it's almost like when you're iterating and someone throws something on the whiteboard and it's like, combine gothic horror with Jurassic. And I, as I am now, would have like been like, that is so intriguing. Put that in like a painting or something. Put that in a comic or something. But in terms of like an actual like in a film, and then to make it like the main premise, I wouldn't have done that. But love and light, and it did really well, which means that Dominion is going to have this. Hopefully, it'll have this. I think it will. It'll have this thing of riding off of, obviously you hear about that financial success, crossing the billion mark, and then we're coming back from COVID and being so excited to be in theaters. Thanks to also shout out to Fast Night. We do the Fast Saga podcast, so that'll be rad to get people in the cinemas and watching that preview footage. But then boosted by that, I really believe it could be. It will be the most successful Jurassic title. Jurassic World Dominion, folks. It's all the stuffs are coming out. And in a beautiful way where it's not about like in that Rise of Skywalker way. And the only reason I bring up Rise of Skywalker is, Colin was tied to it for a while. It was when it was called Duel of the Fates. And I'm certain that as he's making Jurassic World Dominion, he is looking at how that film, it's like they just really just put, it was like CGI sold everything. It was like that JonTron video, which I love JonTron. We do the JonTron podcast too. We just hit a button on our Fitbit, the whole thing was done. That's what he says, like CG. And there's an element, unfortunately, even the JJ loves, real sets, practical effects, as the meme goes. By the end of Rise of Skywalker, you can't help but, extract the development of that film, which was very rushed from what we saw on the screen, and it makes it. I can take it as accepted history of the canon of Star Wars. Sure, as we move towards Star Wars Rogue Squadron and Taika and Feige's film, which I think will be the new trilogy, by the way. But as he's developing Jurassic World Dominion, I am certain that he's looking at the reception to both Rise of Skywalker and Fallen Kingdom and just saying, look, let's make it easy on ourselves. In fact, let's do this thing where COVID actually chastened us as a film crew. Really brought us back to that 1993, like really back to basics, like making this tension, a bit of that Joe Johnson from Jurassic Park 3, that little flicker of the raptor in the background, like that's all it needed to just, instill the horror, instill the fear, and we're still primed for that. It's not, and it's so funny. The first Jurassic World makes this commentary about how we're done with dinosaurs. Oh my lord, no, we're not. It was certainly, again, just like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, an interesting angle to explore. Maybe a comic, this idea of the meta commentary of the bigger beast, more teeth. Look, it's comic book, like both Jurassic Worlds and the trained raptors, like that also firmly in the sort of Dr. Aphra, like chucking in a comic book. But for a main film, like the DNA was laid out. It's so interesting. It's like. That's why I want to bring in a little bit of that analogy here. So we're looking at amber imagery. The yellows are back, the reds are back, the amber color, evoking the first film, and we can really see it as, amber imagery taking that DNA from the first film and then just carrying it into this one. You know what I mean? So that also is very important to kind of sit with, and I was vibing things out just now with all of you on the recording, and that fits perfectly for me, and wouldn't have riff that out if it wasn't for the podcast and having you all here to kind of, as I'm sort of casting out to whoever's listening, riding their bike, mowing their lawn, getting in the car, heading to or heading away from work, like sit with that, like vibe with that, and think about what Dominion means in that sense of a return. And the thing about Jurassic is that it is this thing of saying that the past lives on, right? Which is literally dinosaurs live on. Symbolically, and we're looking at that with Dominion. We're looking at the idea that we didn't have to fuck with it in the first place, and then potentially by the end of Jurassic World there will be this cohabitation sentiment where it's done now and there's just this return to this natural flow, this natural pacing of things. So we did go into the unnatural, the lab created, the focus group, made kind of thing, and the bigger teeth and all that, and like it's not like, that's not Jurassic. And so I love that there's this naturalization returning, and I am getting a lot of the Lost World vibes, and in fact the raptor in my nightmare, which I'm going to get back to, Lost World. All right, Man, I used to get so many fucking nightmares, and I loved them, all of them. Oh, they're back. So here we go. Dominion, however, is absolutely reigniting my passion for Jurassic, taking it further than ever before, though. Yeah, taking it further than ever before. So because they're getting back to basics with the simple premise of predatory dinosaurs, plus humans, plus subtle tension-building storytelling, and plus it equals better than any gimmicky premises or CGI-filled sequences, you know? So case in point, Dominion is directly responsible for restarting my raptor nightmares. This is a very good thing. Who doesn't like the thrill of being truly terrified before waking up / coming out of that experience safely? Usually my nightmares would be some variation of being hunted, caught and devoured alive by them in a variety of gruesome ways, but what always made them so memorable is also what made the animals themselves so memorable. Their true horror is that this is just their nature, like a cat chasing a mouse. To them, hunting a moving, breathing, sweating thing is just a daily routine, impersonal. For the prey, it is the extreme polar opposite, absolute heart-pounding anguish and breathless terror, pleading with the fates to be able to find someplace, any place, to hide. Little bracket I'll open here is when I was a kid living here in Canberra, maybe fresh off of watching the VHS with my wonderful, he's from the Philippines, great friend. I hope to find him again, William. We would watch The Lost World on VHS, and then also, just even coming further back than that, the Jurassic Park pitch black and red VHS, which terrified me. I actually made my dad annoyed because I said I would want to watch it, and then he would rent it, and then I would be too scared, and he'd get angry at me. Which, make of that what you will. Personally, I guess good vibes to my dad. I suppose I wouldn't have gotten angry at a kid for being scared, but I guess on that day he was like, oh, went to get the film, and then you didn't want to see it, and being annoyed, I suppose. But that's another topic altogether. But anyway, and so I would imagine going around, I think it's just Woden Westfield. Back then it was Woden Plaza. And I would look at the vents, and I would look around, and I would look around me and say, where could I hide? This, I'm not swearing in my mind as a kid, but it's like, where can I hide in case a raptor just turns around the corner, click, 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 And it would genuinely give me like heart palpitations. I'd be like, there's nowhere. And I just have that little moment, and then I'd obviously go ahead and have my day. Another vignette from back then was when I was sitting in a car, and the thing is, for a kid, this is something that Spielberg, he doesn't know that. I think he definitely knows that he did this. So, kids, here's the thing: when you're a young kid, parents have to do other things, and they often leave you in the car, like to just, all right, honey, I'll be right back. Here's the air conditioning, here's a drink, here's a snack. I'll be right back, honey. Mwah. And they go to like buy some stuff, and they leave you in the car. And so then Jurassic Park plays on that hardcore, like you are in the car, you cannot get out, and especially if it's raining in that damn car, it's just, again, as I mentioned, Jurassic Park claimed the word Jurassic. They claimed it. and so then also Jurassic claimed the premise of being in the car, it's raining, and the rustling of leaves. And in Australia, guess what? It is a very primordial, ancient place. Like you venture a couple k's outside of any town, it's the Triassic. It's so primordial with lots of dangerous beasties and like just lots of like foliage, and then just it looks like places where dinosaurs would live, frankly. And growing up in Australia as a dinosaur kid, as they say. Yeah, that was amped up. It's different than if I had grown up in somewhere directly dinosaur conducive, in a big city or something. Then that would have had a couple of degrees removed. But I just happened to be in dinosaur land, essentially, aesthetically at least. So I was in my car, or in the car, holding out a Jurassic puzzle. It was just a Velociraptor, the big one from Jurassic Park, 1994 or 5 this was, and I was a kid, and it was and the thing is, another thing that thematically, just like how if you look at Avatar, as soon as you see those forests, as soon as you see certain skin tones and certain bioluminescence, boom, you think Avatar. Avatar has claimed that unofficially, aesthetically. So you put those vibes together, boom. Tumblr has a lot of fun with this, where it's the aesthetics of a certain property, whatever. And with the Wizarding World, we're talking fireplaces, we're talking mantelpieces, and medieval castles. They have unofficially claimed those aesthetics. Jurassic unofficially claimed slate concrete buildings that resemble bunkers, that give the feeling of, okay, this place is getting started up on its feet, just like Jurassic Park was in the 90s. And in Australia, it just so happens, and then in particular in Canberra, like we just have a very brutalist kind of aesthetic kind of thing going on here. And so then, yeah, I'd be, God damn it, it's like, okay, so I have all of these elements, like Australia, land of the dinosaurs, fuck it. I am in this car, and it is not raining outside, but it is like, there's a bush nearby, there's like straight up some ferns nearby that like resemble very much Isla Nublar ferns. I'm holding this puzzle and I freak out. I'm like, as a like 10-year-old or something or whatever, I am looking at it and I just see the outside, and I automatically, because of all these combined factors of being in the car, you know, being alone, and it's like, yeah, I just fully freak out. So hence the, you know, the raptor nightmare. So a little bracket right there. So just to give you a bit more context as we go in. So something I had been hoping would happen actually did, and this is directly attributable to Colin's approach with Dominion, stripped down approach rather. Quite simply, the dream is over, the island is gone, and the nightmare is now very, very real. My raptor nightmare last night took place, of all places, at a densely populated beach. Okay. Whew. Yeah, real deal. We become like these adults that are like, oh, totally rational and like it's all a movie and stuff. But it's when you read this stuff, there's some part of you unconsciously that's like, hey, the old fears come back, you know. And frankly, any premise that can do that is Colin. I just want to say love and light to you, jeez, to your whole team for making that happen. Like, yeah, I'm so happy. It's like usually you'd think, oh, you had a nightmare, aren't you? Like, wow, you're having a very positive reaction to having a nightmare. It's like, yes, I am, because of everything it means. Again, that perfect blend between horror and terror. So, sorry, terror and wonder, excuse me. Right, so picture a family happily splashing away, and a close-up on the mother smiling. And in the background, out of focus, we see in the distance, about 70 meters away, the faint outline of the lost world-looking raptor leaping up. And folks, I'm going to take a little aside here. You remember when we're watching The Lost World as kids, the tall grass, right? Right, yeah, okay, I'm just letting you sit with that. The tall grass, and you are fucking terrified, basically, in that moment, because you can't see them. And then you see them. And they're heading towards you, right? And then this thing leaps out, and it is horrifying. It's so huge. It's so overpowering, again, 6-7 foot, you know, and you're gone. Like, and this Frontier, that particular, that trademark sort of, you know, 10-meter leap, maybe 7 meters up in the air, 10 across, 7 up in the air, that arc of doom, like you are just gone if that thing lands on you. And it will, because it is a honed, multi-million-year-old dinosaur, you know, 65 million-year-old refined, evolved organism, you know. Oof. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Boom. So I'll continue. Yeah, picture a family happily splashing away, a close-up on the smiling mother, and in the background, out of focus, we see in the distance, about 70 meters away, the faint outline of the lost world-looking raptor leap up and land on a man who begins to shriek horribly, as his insides are torn out and devoured on the spot. The mother wheels around, terror filling her eyes, and we begin following her and her children, her 3 children. I'm just upgrading it as we go along, folks, as they make their way away from the scene. So I don't know how many of you like went to see the film with your parents, but frankly, like I mean, you know, Alan Grant, like he introduces that idea of like, okay, so the parents there to protect you, you know, and that's fair enough. And you know, Spielbergian, you know, the parent that will protect you. But with this, I have an idea coming up, so I definitely want to hear from some of you what you think. So here we go. Okay. Yeah, making way for the scene. So this is a but as she makes their way, and we're following this one family. So as it's, you know, this pack, that's what it is, folks. This is a large roving pack. It's not just one individual. 20 to 25 raptors moving across land stealthily, working in unison. In the dream, I saw a raptor effortlessly running across the top of a fence-like structure. Picture a 1-foot wide wall, crouching deep with its torso way past its legs, ready to spring, and leaping onto the ground, blocking their helpless prey's way. For them, it's all over. You right? Picture the camera going in and out of buildings all in one single shot. And picture, as sacrilegious as this may sound, for one of the kids, maybe the 15-year-old, deciding to run off from mum and his sisters, sacrificing himself so that his family can get away. His fate left somewhat ambiguous. If Colin does something like this, a single, uninterrupted shot of a single human being mercilessly and impersonally hunted by a single raptor in a densely populated area, right? That's honestly all you need to do, okay? To create one of the whole Jurassic Saga's most intense scenes, you know? Ooh, and thing is, even the reason why it's getting to me, folks, is like, even just reading this, even I just read the idea, I'm just thinking about it, and I can't help but visualize it so strongly, because again, this thing that I really felt was drifting from me, this fear, you know, it's coming back. That's beautiful. I honestly thought that would never happen, you know? A young kid in particular, you know? Right? Yeah. So as you can tell, it's the trifecta. So you have the Anchor, you have the Instagram, and then you have the Reddit. It's all of these are just interfacing with each other. And as I'm going through, I just want to make the very best content for myself and for all of you. I wanted to upgrade this as I went. So there you go. So what do you think? What dinosaurs among us / on the mainland sequences are you hoping to see in Jurassic World Dominion? What are your dinosaur nightmares? Here we go. Excellent. So there you go, folks. And I really that was I want that to be the basis for. Okay, was that removed? No, certainly. I don't think it was removed. I think we're good. I don't know. Sometimes Reddit, you know, but I'm sure you don't want to hear too much more about Reddit. But yeah, let it be known that if you are someone who is on Reddit and wondering about that, those policies, like just ease up a little bit on those. But anyway, you know, today we covered so much, folks. The upcoming Dominion, the absolutely upcoming series. All right, the Jurassic Path, if you want to call it that. I think I'll workshop that more, come up with something else, and when I develop some graphics. Okay, the open world title, and then Jurassic World Muldoon. So I was entertaining the idea of the all-in-one, but no, I think the open world is going to be a separate thing, and then you have this closer in, you know, third/first. Both of them, I believe, third/first, because I just want to be able to do both. You're looking at Dead Space as well for inspiration for that third-person aspect of this. So yeah, okay. So I hope that sort of laid a few things out. We're coming to the last 10 minutes of the show, so I think I will give you a little bit of a preview of what's to come. So this debuts. It's the beginning of this Road to Dominion. #Road to Dominion. Next month, the cadence obviously will be determined by just. I've got some co-hosts that I'll be reaching out to, and there's going to be a monthly cadence until things start to ramp up, and we are going to be doing commentaries of the films. We're going to be doing commentaries of some of the, for example, the Jurassic World footage that ended up being test footage, but you as soon as I saw that in 2013, that terror I did have that sort of pulse of the return of that childhood terror of, you know, I guess that beach imagery may have subconsciously figured its way into my dream, because beaches seem so innocent, you know, such an innocent place for such a horrible thing to happen, and so then that plays really, and like I can just hear people saying, oh, the beach sequence from Jurassic World Dominion, you know, how people coming out of the theaters in, you know, of Jurassic Park in 1993. I'm sure you heard some people being, oh, the kitchen sequence, and then the kitchen sequences reputation precedes it, just like in the film itself, metatastically, the raptor scene, the kitchen scene precedes, you know, the reputation of that scene precedes them for sure. So, but to fully tie this off, look, obviously terror and wonder is the mixture. For me, more onto the terror side, because I just think you take care of the terror, the wonder does itself. Like, there you go, focus on the terror, and then then the wonder becomes the reprieve from the baseline. The default should be absolute terror for Jurassic World. So, and not action. I mean, action is just so not no. Like, action doesn't belong. Like, action is such a tangential byproduct. And in fact, all of Jurassic Park's, the 1993 film, those action scenes are very tied in with the terror, tied in with the fear. There's nothing too grandiose, and I know that Colin said, "Oh, bashing dinosaur toys together," but no, just love and light to him. But no, and I think him going into horror in his own way with Dominion will be very, very, very good. And I think not just because I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm not letting the thing evolve, and evolution's important, but it is about learning from the past and then iterating. Like, there's so much to be done within that horror formula, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can go into entire worlds and stories and everything within the actual formula of this thing, and people respond to consistency, and innovation comes into that. But for example, look at Star Wars and then going into The Empire Strikes Back. Perfect, innovated, but was consistent as well. So, and logically didn't feel like it was written; it just felt like natural to the characters. So, but tying things off, folks, I want to share another little vignette for me. Is so I was a kid in the early 90s on the Oval in Yarralumma Primary School here in Canberra, and what I thought was it was one of the toys from the films, and it's not a Velociraptor. I used to think it was. It's one of those sort of bendy little ones, and I'll put an image or something on the Instagram soon. But if I just go vintage Jurassic Park toys, and I'll just go flexible dinosaur. There you go. So I'll find it. I'm sure I'll find it like super quickly. Google's getting really, really good with that. Yes. So it's sort of the if you remember the sort of package one. So it is the Coelophysis. That was the one. I used to have a Coelophysis. I think I may have been naughty, and I think a friend had it, and then I think he lent it to me. I think I kept it and then gave it back to him potentially, but no, I loved it, and I thought it was a Velociraptor at the time because I was a kid. Obviously, kids, they're still learning things, and just being on the Oval, and then what I heard was it's very similar. I had two very parallel experiences with Jurassic and Star Wars. So on the Oval, the Oval, now it's got this myth to it or whatever, but like this beloved place in my heart, which is I heard two things on the Oval. I heard from my friend, they were talking about having seen it. I hadn't seen it yet, and I heard the line, "When you gotta go, you gotta go." And as kids, often, I don't know if it's because our bladders are smaller or something, but we have to pee a lot or whatever. I suppose that's like a thing. It's like, teacher, whatever. And so then you gotta go, you gotta go. It's like that's tied into my childhood experience, and so then that weirdly precedes me watching it. And then when I watch it, I get another thing, which the scene will precede it. It's like, again, coming out of that 1993 theater, you'll hear people say, "Oh, the toilet scene, ooh, the kitchen scene," right? And I want that to happen for Dominion too. I want people to say, "Oh, the beach scene, oh, the hospital scene," ooh, the roof scene, and I just want to, really get people being like, "Oh, indelible in people's minds," and then causing many beautiful, like delightedly terrified nightmares. I mean, they were very distressing in the past, but now it's all good, and I think there's a good. I mean, my fiance Ray, she was like, "Yeah, this is way too fucking scary." I'm like, understood, and so she has stepped away from watching them because I did show her that first one. She agrees that it was well paced, but it's a horror movie to her, and it is. Jurassic is a horror. It's a horror series. So again, I obviously wouldn't tie off the first episode of the Jurassic podcast without mentioning Camp Cretaceous. Love and light to people who enjoy it. Love, very similar to why I appreciate Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, is that they are introducing it to certain audiences, but it's just, again, love and light, not my thing. So Dominion is I'm appending some hopes to that, and it'll be what it'll be. But my manifestation is that, and what I love is there's a theme in Jurassic of like inevitability, of having made this decision. Okay, so you're doing this, and we will come back to this horror as this thing, which, like, again, the most indelible stories for us are the ghost stories, the ones that really, really frighten us. That those stories stay with us the most, and that's why the kids, they lean forward. I'm leaning forward right now as I tell this. Like those are the stories that stay with us. And I think returning to horror is just going to be this guiding star or whatever, this true north of Jurassic going forward. So yeah, Camp Cretaceous, love and light to people who enjoy it, totally fine. Jurassic Dominion, folks, and that is where, yes, something will end, but also something will begin as well. So, folks, thank you for joining me for the first episode of the Jurassic Podcast. Let's go. We've got, a couple of days until the release of, I'm going to put out the second one fairly soon in the next month, because I want to start bringing in people with building up towards the road to Dominion. Hope you had a good time, and please do submit your Jurassic nightmares either to the Reddit. You can see me there, Albert Kessler Official on the Reddit, or to the various places we occupy on the web as the Jurassic Podcast. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and if you're listening on the weekend, have a great weekend too. And until next time, bye for now.